Hello, everybody. I'm just going to make sure we're live here. And if you are watching the replay of this special wine and cheese pairing session, please still jump into the comments. I want to hear from you because I will be looking for those comments throughout this week. All right, so we had such fun last time with this live wine and cheese pairing. I thought, what the hey, let's do it again, right? So tell me if you're quick on the mark and you're logging in here early, where are you logging in from? What is your favorite cheese? And I am just going to click over so I can see all the comments. And I need to mute myself there. All right. Okay, Louise Boudreau is here. Mark Lay, love wine, love cheese. A bit too much, I'm in. All right, Mark, you're in Toronto. Robert Charret. Actually, since I prefer red wines, I find cheeses do not go well with them. Well, you know what, Robert? That relates to one of the, you're right, in that one of the biggest myths is that red wines should be the default wine with cheese. You know, if you go to really bad art gallery openings or budget weddings, you'll find that it's always red wine and cheese. But in fact, there's a wider range of white wines, I find personally, that go with cheese. But do not despair, Robert. There are lots of great red wine and cheese matches. We'll talk about some of those tonight, okay? We're going to find some great matches for you. So don't give up just because you're a red wine lover. Louise Boudreau is logging in from Palm Bay, Florida. Oh, it must be warm there, Louise. What's the temperature? We had a really bitterly cold day today here in Ottawa. And Louise loves Manchego and Chardonnay. Great match. Excellent match. All right, folks. Well, I was on CTV News today. We did 2 segments on pairing wine and cheese, and it was a lot of fun. And I scoured the city for very interesting cheeses. Because I really wanted a wide range of cheeses to pair with a wide range of wines. So I have got a pile of cheese on my desk. I said to my partner Miles when I was driving home in the car smelled like a barn. Because, you know, cheese can be very barnyard, very meadowy, but it was like really good. Barnyard good. Tom Dean has joined us, and he's tuning in from Cambridge, Ontario. It is 30 degrees in Palm Bay, Florida, Louise says. My. I think it was minus 7 or 8 degrees Celsius today here in Ottawa, Louise. Oi. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Please, you know, I love hearing where you're from. Now, give me some wine and cheese pairings. What are your favorite wine and cheese pairings? And also, the purpose of this is to find out what you would want in a wine, cheese, and pairing course. Right, so that is something that I'm pretty sure I'm going to offer in early December. We'll just do 1 or 2 sessions before Christmas or Hanukkah to get going for the holidays, how to play different boards for entertaining. And then we'll do another 3 sessions in the new year. Anne Bedard is here. Hello. Louise says, brr. Nicholas Malbouf has joined us. Hello, Nicholas. Tell us about your favorite wine and cheese pairings. All right, so as I was saying, at CTV today, we were pairing lots of different wine and cheeses. Now, I'm going to show you some very different ones. One of the ones that caught my eye is called Mimolette. I believe someone mentioned in our last session it's actually illegal in the United States. It's not legal everywhere. I'm going to show this to you if you don't mind my pawing my own cheese, but I really want you to see this. It really... first of all, it has this really bright orange color, and that comes from the color, a natural coloring from the seeds of the tropical rainforest tree. It's called annatto. So it gives this orangey red hue, but what's really interesting about Mimolite is that the crust, this was aged for 20 months. It's a firm cheese from France. And so they allow cheese mites, little tiny bugs, to feast on the rind of this cheese. It adds flavor and texture. It's a protected recipe in France. And so now there are no live cheese mites in this right now because to get imported to Canada, it is legal here, they have to shave off the rind so they get rid of the mites and then they put a wax coating on it. But I just love that story. First, it's a real pop of color on a plate of cheeses, but also you get the backstory. Like I was saying today with Leanne on CTV, you know, every cheese has a story. Every wine has a story. These are great conversation starters. Of course, every person has a story too. Has anybody tried Mimolette? I'm curious. So, want a nice red wine with smoked Gouda. Would Amarone do well? Yes. Yes, Tom. Because smoked Gouda has the smoky taste, flavor. And Amarone, the grapes are dried on straw mats in northern Italy. And so it gets a smoky character as well. It's very deep, full-bodied, big, huge, rich red wine. Usually clocks in at 14 to 15%. So that Amarone will also do well with other hard cheeses, like the Mimolette, like cheddar. Even it'll take on like your blue cheeses as well. And Annie is here from Promises, Panama. All right. Darren Very has joined us. So Anne Bedard says she loves Torrontés, which is a floral Argentine wine, white wine, and with triple cream brie. Oh, yes. You're a woman after my own heart, Anne. I love that combination because Torrontés is very, very floral. I love it. It's like Gewürztraminer meets Viognier meets Riesling. I mean, it's just so beautiful, and it's grown in mostly the Salta region of Argentina, where they get high altitude planting. So it's crisp. It's got great acidity, and there is a cheese for that. Let me see if I can pull from my stack here. So when we talk about floral notes in that Torrontés, and you've got to find this wine or cheese, I should say. Now I want to make sure I get the right one here from the description, because it is just a stunner, I think. It's a hard cheese from Germany, and what they do is they age it in beer, or they wash it in beer, and then they pick these little wild flowers from the Black Forest in Germany and press them onto the rind. And so it does have these floral notes that would be so beautiful. I mean, if you see a large wedge of this, you can see the little mini flowers. I've just got a small piece of it here. It's stunning, the texture and the visual, again, on the plate, because we're talking about entertaining here. We want to get to the fundamentals of which cheese, which wine, but we also want to bring it all together for entertaining. Am I right? Yes? All right. So that's a beautiful cheese. Another hard cheese. I'm just going to take a sip of wine. Anybody got wine in their glass right now? I've got the Southbrook orange wine from Ontario. And this is beautiful. It smells and tastes like Earl Grey tea. It's very interesting. Lovely. Okay. Now, I also have Blue Elizabeth cheese. So I've mentioned this in the past, but I'm a super taster, which means not so much that I'm really, really good at tasting, but that I'm really, really, really sensitive. So I've always not liked blue cheeses, olives, anything with a strong taste or flavor, because I'm super sensitive. So it's like sensory onslaught. But this blue from it's made in a monastery in Quebec called Blue Elizabeth, and I'll hold some up here, is in a triple cream cheese as well. So what happens is the cream of the cheese softens the blue, the pungency of the blue. And that's what I suggest for those of you who find blue just too strong. I don't like blue. This cheese has won a lot of awards, and it's got that balanced sweetness from just beautiful organic milk that it's made from. And you get some blackberry and black currant notes from the blue cheese. Beautiful. That would be absolutely the bomb with like a sweet wine, a sweet dessert wine like Sauterne, but even like a late harvest Riesling, I think would be beautiful. Mark Lay says, oh, Astrolabe Sauvignon Blanc. That would be lovely with any meadowy cheese, like the flowers that I was showing you of course, a goat's cheese. I do have, segue, a goat's cheese with an ash rind. And so let me show you what that looks like. All right, here we go. So this is a triangle. Again, not always the best for displaying on a tiny camera, but this has got what you call an ash rind goat's cheese from France. And it's ripened goat's milk. And it's got this, when you bring it up to room temperature, because another thing about wine and cheeses is that you need to serve them at the right temperature. So hard cheeses can come out of the fridge or wherever you're storing them like a good hour before your guests arrive. But softer cheeses like this goat cheese or brie or camembert especially need to come out only about 10, 20 minutes beforehand, or else you're going to have a runny paste. But when this is brought up to temperature, I just whip these out of the fridge, so that's why it's so solid. But if it came up to room temperature where it should be, you would see a nice, soft, almost lemony paste of the cheese. And of course, the flavors would be more forward. You could smell them much better. Louise says, were you able to find interesting cheeses? Oh, yes, Louise. Oh, yes, absolutely. I've got lots here. So we've done an ash gray goat's cheese. We've got these Blue Elizabeth triple cream cheese, the Mimolette with the cheese mites. Let me just dive into what else I have here because there's just so much. Okay, I've got them all wrapped here, waiting for their debut. Oh, here's another one. Shropshire from England. Shropshire. I hope I'm not spitting on the mic. But it's a blue cheese with annatto, that orangey, natural orangey sort of coloring from the seeds of that Brazilian rainforest tree. So look at this. This is so, look, imagine how that pops on a cheese plate in terms of the color, right? And it's beautiful. And again, here's another cheese, a blue that's less pungent, not as strong as a straight-on Stilton. So blue with training wheels. If you want to start and try to get a taste for blue without diving into the deep end of real pungency. Shropshire blue. But what was I searching for you, Louise? Oh, here's another one. Here's an interesting one. This cheese is made in Wisconsin, and it's an Asiago cheese with a Merlot washed rind. So you can see the purple tints of the Merlot washed rind, and that does impart flavor to this cheese. And of course, it's a natural pairing for Merlot, but you could do any full-bodied red with this. But it's just beautiful, again, visually on the plate. And I'm probably breaking all the cheese manners by holding all these cheeses, but it's just so interesting. I want you to see them up close on the camera. Now, here's the bomb. Does anybody like truffles? Raise your hand. And I'm talking about the wild fungi, not the chocolate. I like both, but I'm talking about the wild fungi. So Donna Tyson says, yum. All right, so this one, let me just make sure I get this. Okay, so this is called Moliterno al Tartufo. It's a hard cheese from Italy. I can smell it from here. Whew. It's a firm cheese, sheep's milk from Sardinia, and it's aged for 4 to 6 months before they rub it and then inject it with black truffle paste. Look at that. I can smell it. Oh, it's like, smells like wild forests. And if you've ever had black truffle shaved on any dish, oh, it's pretty amazing. And it's got this sort of snap and this, my mouth's watering. I'm not even eating it. So it is got lots of great natural acidity to it, but this wild truffle taste that is just beyond the bend, I've got to say. And so when I get into those wild truffly, like at first I think, Pinot Noir, but this cheese is too strong. Pinot Noir has sort of natural truffle taste. You need to go for something like Barolo from northern Italy that's often described as having wild truffles and violets and all that sort of smoke, and it needs a full body because it's so full on flavor. And all these, again, I just love the backstory of how they're made, maybe who first made them, why they go with wine. I mean, we can get way beyond basic cheddar and basic brie, all right, when it comes to cheese. It was, I was saying this on CTV today, but it was Francois Mitterrand, the former French prime minister, said, it's impossible to govern a country where there are more than 500 cheeses. Like, there's no consensus. Tom Dean says, and what might go with a Limburger soft cheese? I've always wondered about this, as my German landlady in Waterloo kept this in her fridge forever when I was an undergrad. So this is one of the stinkiest cheeses, but it has a lot of fans, So I would go right to port with Limburger, Tom, and I would eat it in a corner. It truly is one of those. Like Époisse is another soft cheese from France that's really, I mean, almost smells like ammonia. But Limburger has a very, very strong cheese, and I can only imagine what that cheese smelled like in her fridge if she kept it forever, Tom. So I would go with a port, a fortified wine. I think you really need to go all in on Limburger that way. Hello, Deb in Vancouver. How are you? And Donna, what is your favorite wine and cheese pairing? And folks, I would love to know your feedback. What would you like to see in a wine and cheese pairing course? What would be the ultimate? So we're covering the basics, of course. We're getting the backstories. We're learning how to plate and how to entertain. Some neat things that I'm discovering, because storage, serving temperature storage is really important. Saran wrap is not a good thing for your cheese. It doesn't let it breathe. Wax paper is okay because really few of us really wrap the cheese tightly with wax paper. It's really hard to get tight. But I am discovering some like cheese bags, and there's cheese labels and special cheese paper. I got into it this week, let me tell you. I was out to 7 different cheese shops, specialty shops in the city, looking for all of these kinds of condiments and accoutrements and everything else. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind with storing cheese. Nicole Belanger asks, where can we find the truffle cheese? I got all my cheeses today from Jacobson's in Ottawa. The good news is that they ship across Canada. And I have compiled a list on my website that I'm going to include in the course of places where you can get cheeses shipped to you, whether you're in Canada, the US, or elsewhere if we have interest in that. Yes, and display and presentation, absolutely. Just great and now hungry, says Deb. Let me show you a few nifty things for display and presentation. So I was just in Loblaws, and they've got this whole festive set of gold bowls, but I picked up some black pepper oriental cashew nuts. So just for a pop of color, or cornichons. I really like to go with savory kinds of condiments rather than sweet. Not grapes. It's cliche, but it's also terrible with wine, grapes. And look at these little guys. I just found these. So I'm going to show you some more things because I love the gadgets and things and dressings, table dressings, when we get into them. Tom Dean says, we also like Oka from Quebec. Yes, I was talking about that. I had Oka cheese with me today, Tom, on CTV, and I had their raclette, which, if you're familiar with raclette, it has great melting quality. So raclette is one of those really great cheeses for a grilled cheese sandwich. So Oka makes different kinds of cheese, Tom. So they make a Gouda style, they make the raclette. Most of them are fairly either mild or nutty. So I would go with a Chardonnay, an oaked Chardonnay. Or if you're a diehard red fan, then probably a Gamay or a Pinot Noir would go well. Those would really work. Let me dig into what else I have here, because I've just got to show you these beauties. They're just, Donna loves Oka cheese. All right. Yeah, let me just get down to, because I show you this can't even say it. Red Leicester. It's the British town. Leicester. Red Leicester Stevenson. So this looks like the Mimolette. It's got annatto in it too. And by the way, when they flavor it with annatto, or not flavor it, when they color it with annatto, it doesn't change the flavor. It's meant for the visual appeal. And that is a secret I learned about cheddar. So when you see the white or yellow cheddar and then the orange cheddar, the orange stuff doesn't change the taste at all. And hopefully they're using the natural annatto seeds to do the coloring, but it's purely for visual. Now we eat with our eyes, right? We drink with our eyes too. So this one, red, I'm going to list these all on my site, but all of these I'm going to include in the course too. And I'm going to go deeper into their backstory because it's just way too interesting to not do it. It's a cloth-bound cheese, and we'll learn about what does that mean? How do you make cheese cloth-bound? So the annatto also protects the cheese in addition to giving it that orangey red hue. And it's not a cheddar, but it sort of comes off tasting like a cheddar with a bit of a mustardy taste with some salt, but still a creamy paste. So again, I would go like with an oak Chardonnay or something, perhaps even what else would we do with that? That could go with Merlot. Yeah, some medium-bodied reds for sure. All right, good to see you all here tonight, my diehard wine and cheese fans. All right, so let me bring out this one. So when it comes to cheese, like wines, there are major milks, right? There's goat, sheep, cow, water buffalo, and a lot of cheeses follow or just have one milk. But this is a mixed milk, so they're taking milk from different animals and blending it in this. And I get all sticky fingers here. But this one, Nebbiolo Tre Latte, is an Italian cheese, and I've still got the sort of wrappings on it here. But it's a blend of cow, sheep, and goat's milk, and it produces a very rich, full-bodied, soft cheese, very rich milk. And of course, it's all about what were the animals grazing on. That's the flavor that will come through in the cheese. So there's very much a terroir of cheese, just like there is a terroir of wine. And you can start to see why a goat's cheese with the meadowy influences of the Loire Valley goes with a Sauvignon Blanc that has herbal, fresh notes to it. This is known for being just a touch sweet, a very nice soft paste, and almost like a mousse-like consistency. It's denser at the center. Often you'll find with the rinds that you can eat, and it's important to know which rinds you can eat and which you can't, but the cheese near the rind is often the most flavorful. It's almost like meat, a tenderloin. The meat closest to the bone, tender to the bone, tender to the rind, that's where the flavor starts and emanates out from there. Pretty cool, eh? All right. So let me see what else I have. And also, I would love your suggestions on what you would like in the course. Tom's giving me lots of great questions for what pairings he is trying to do with various cheeses. Emmental Swiss cheese. This would be a Chardonnay pairing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that would work. I'd probably go with an oak Chardonnay, Tom. Loving that Southbrook. Okay, let me look at what else is among all these cheese papers. Oh, all right, I think I may have held up all of them. And if you missed them, you can watch the replay. But I've got some more things here that you'll find interesting. So while I was at Jacobson's, there we go, don't want to let everything topple here. They have a notepad of paper. You can see they're just like large placemat size. And you can tear off a paper at a time. And I'm just going to drop this here. Excuse me. And it looks like a slate in that you can write with soapstone, chalk, and you can put your cheeses on here. So you can imagine it's disposable. And then the lighter cheeses would really pop. And you could put the name of the cheese and maybe a suggested wine pairing if you want for your guests. It is really cool. And then you can just discard it afterwards. Or you can buy slate board. So slate, this is the soapstone I was using. Slate, you can get real slate boards. I've got one on order from the UK. I can't wait to get it. And you can write on those too with the soapstone and erase. So I was also looking for things that were festive, like I found this red Charger plate in again in Loblaws. Not expensive. Sorry, it's got the cheese from today's CTV interview, but you can imagine how the colors would pop against this background. Wait for it. This is my favorite cheese plate. I love cheese plates. So this is a natural wood from the UK. Let me turn around this way. And can you see embedded in there is a champagne capsule. And then they've taken little slivers of the champagne capsule and embedded it in different parts of the wood. And the more I wash this, the softer it gets. It's so beautiful. I just love it. And I've got another one that's a completely different shape. But I just love the wine element of the champagne capsule. So beautiful. My goodness. So that's sort of just covering the waterfront there with kind of utensils, a little bit about storage and serving temperatures, some really different cheeses here. Also, I'm a huge fan of regional wine and cheese pairings. So we did a couple of segments on CTV, but one was regional. So I did all Canadian wines with Canadian cheeses, and it was fun. So different provinces for the wines and the cheeses. And I think that makes sense if you think about terroir, or the climate, the soil conditions of where the cheese and wine, if they grow up together, are made together, that they're going to express some of those similar nuances. Hey, Tim Lash in Ottawa. I'm a big fan of Quebec cheese. I've heard of this over and over. Le Cendrillon, am I pronouncing that correctly? An ash-covered soft goat's milk cheese. So I had one of these, Tim, but it's not the same one. And oh, the comments are coming so fast. I'm going to scroll back up and catch you there, Tim. There you are. So it's made by La Maison Alexis de Portneuf. There's also Quebec cheese made with ash in the middle, and it's delicious. I'm going to have to look for those. I want to include those in the course, Tim. I love it. Love it. Deb says, that's so pretty. I have a few wine caps I can do with that. Yes. Nancy Dubé is here. Hello, Nancy. And Tom Dean. We also get a Cabot Seriously Sharp Cheddar from Vermont and have not found a good pairing. A sharp cheddar. So, Tom, try the Amarone with that, because sharp, hard cheeses. So what happens with cheese as it ages, like wine, if it's the right wine, the right cheese, of course, it gets more complex. It gets to be more itself. So in the case of cheese, the flavors get stronger. The snap, there's more snap, more tang, more acidity. The salt is more concentrated. Everything is getting more concentrated. So you need a big red. So I would try that Amarone, or even just jump right to port. So a vintage port, a late bottled vintage port. Probably not a tawny port with its caramel flavor. That I would save for other cheeses that we've discussed. It's probably not strong enough. Let me go back up here because I'm missing these. Okay, Donna says she gets hers from Remark, Southwestern Ontario. Is that a cheese shop, Donna? I need to know if you can put a link in this discussion, because I'm collecting links of cheese shops, whether they are just great and in their city and you have to go buy it there, and or if they ship around province, around state, around country. Deb says, in BC we have a Jurassic Mobier style cheese made with raw milk, has a distinct layer of vegetable ash in the middle. Actually, I think the ash is from wine grapes. Flavor profile is rich and creamy. This is a must from Terroir Cheese, which is the shop she's talking about. I'm going to have to look that one up, Deb. All right, Mark Lay says he's a huge fan of aged Danish S-Rom. Wow, you guys, I love this. Hard to get now, but for some reason, I like it with a full-bodied red. That sounds great. Louise board. Oh, Louise loves my board. Yes, Nicole loves my board. I will be posting resources. That's one thing I'm going to include with this course, where you can get all the fun stuff, right? I'm a gadget freak. When it's a useful, beautiful gadget. Love that. Louise said, what cheeses would be great with dessert wines? So I think the creamy blues with a Sauterne, maybe an ice wine. Not sure if it's strong enough, if the ice wine is strong enough for this. But this is a cream blue, so it's not as pungent. But dessert wines are just so beautiful with creamy blues, with anything salty. So sweet and salty goes hand in hand, as you know, from Asian, Chinese takeout. They're mixing those flavors all the time. So we think about in cooking or on our plate, what are we mixing when it comes to sweet, and what does sweet go with? Sweet and salty, I think, are a nice balance. Nicole Belanger says, Le Douanier is a Quebec cheese with ash in the middle. You'll find it at Farm Boy in Ottawa. Awesome. You know, and I was into Metro too today. I love Farm Boy's selection. And I was impressed. I found some PEI cheeses from Cow's Milk there. And the Oka cheese I found at Metro. So some of the grocery stores have a very decent selection of cheeses. Nancy says, hello, it's finally great to catch one of your live feeds. I know, Nancy, you're always posting in the Sunday Sipper support group. That's great. I'm so glad you're here. One of my favorite cheeses is Asiago with Baco Noir. Nice pairing. Very nice pairing, Nancy. Love it. All right. So let me just double check here. But yeah, I think, you know, something that we would need to address in the course is kind of how to store and keep cheeses, because I think we're doing our cheeses not any big favors when we're putting them away in saran wrap, as I had been doing for years. So guilty. So any other favorite pairings? Hello, Donna Whitaker. Hi. We've had a great discussion, Donna. So you'll want to watch the replay along with anybody who's sort of joined in the last 5-10 minutes. Go back to the beginning, because we've been talking about a lot of different cheeses here and a lot of pretty gadgets. Take another sip of this. So any other suggestions, folks? Before we sort of wrap up, I just wanted to touch base with you again. Hello, Allison. Hi. Tom Dean says, our best cheese shop is Say Cheese Please in Cambridge. We will make sure that is in the master list of cheese links, cheese retailer links, Tom. All right, I'm going to jump back in the comments later tonight and throughout this week. So basically, the plan is that we'll get through Black Friday and everything else, all that madness. And I think I will open up registration for a short time for this beta group, which means a test group. For this, I'll be live on video with you for a series of 5 weeks, just 2 before Christmas, because I don't want to get into the busy season. Early December, and then the rest will be in Jan, Feb. And yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Like, you don't have to be, you know, a wine expert, but I think it'll appeal to both wine experts and if you're just new to wine, because it's all about this pairing angle, which I just love, right? Grace in the Kitchen in Canada. Absolutely, Louise. Yeah, Grace in the Kitchen. And I was at Jacobson's in the East End, so Canada's West End. And then, yeah, the Farm Boys do tend to have a good selection. And I think it's Mes Amis in Vancouver. I mean, each city has its sort of hero cheese shop. In Toronto, I'm trying to remember who is the big cheese there. Who's the big cheese on campus in Toronto? All right, you're welcome, Louise. Okay, folks, so I think I'm going to wrap this up for tonight. But again, keep commenting. Just because the video is over doesn't mean the discussion ends. I want to thank you so much for joining me here. There was another session about 2 weeks ago. This is the final one in terms of getting your feedback and preparing for this course. I appreciate all your suggestions. Fabulous. And I will let you know more details as they unfold for this course. I hope you'll join me in it, because it's going to be a ton of fun. Take care, and bye for now, folks. Bye-bye.